All right.
Hello, beautiful.
Hello, gorgeous.
It's been a while.
I know it's been too long, but obviously with reason. Uh, Congrats to you with your other podcast.
Yes,
And
thank you.
school's been going well. I can't wait to drop out, but we'll get into that.
Actually, let's start off with that, just because
Okay. All right.
it hits home. It hits home to both of us. So I guess I'm past. I'm past, and your future. For those who don't know, I'm a current college dropout. Went to school for 2.5 years, and Mike, who recently just took up school a year and a half ago, is kind of following in the same
yeah.
footsteps. So
But and I'll lay out several reasons, and one is simply go on any of your typical like employee hiring apps like Indeed. Look at the availability right now of jobs. Truthfully, the availability of jobs for someone with my experience or fucking even lack thereof. This is the chance to make some real money if I just want to get some busy work going.
mhm.
Now, that's my financial answer to how I'm going to survive without getting an education right now. Now, I will explain this. My education will always be there for me to revisit. I am blessed. I am lucky due to the benefits I got through serving this country. I will have those benefits. Right now, the reason I'm turning away from education and my focus on it is I feel that the world is kind of pulling further apart as technology kind of takes on this symbiotic aspect of our existence now. I feel that there's very few real natural moments left to experience before the technological age booms and we see a whole shift in focus in society, which is going to be cool. It's going to be scary, but it's going to be cool because the idea of people doing research on technology and stuff like that, like over time, that people don't realize, and all of a sudden, next thing you know, like a nuke's made.
Mhm.
Like like just thinking about that, that's how it goes. Like no one pays attention to the busy work. We're heading to the point. We're heading to the point where the busy work is starting to turn more practical, and I think we're going to see a major upshift in people's technological use. So I want to go experience as much life as I can and go travel around the US, and especially with climate change, even thinking about um, how the environment is changing around us, even in the slightest ways, just tells me that it's time to go explore more of life versus and live more of life, because that's where knowledge is to be gained right now, through experience,
Yeah,
not through the books, because I've learned a lot through the books.
yeah,
I learned everything I needed to know, and we'll get into that. I learned a lot I needed to know through
yeah,
the education system, but now it's taught me a couple things about where we're at, and we'll get further into that as we continue. But that's the long answer, I suppose.
yeah. And I feel like too with like in college and just an education period, there's plenty of knowledge to be had. There's plenty of books to read, but where life lessons come from, where you as a person develop, is when you turn knowledge into wisdom. And like you and I think like you said, taking, I mean, that's where like there's things that college like gave me that obviously I'm thankful for, like friends, relationships I've made, the I mean, time management and like putting so many things on your plate and prioritizing things and like that. And then ultimately as well, like if I hadn't gone to college, there's a good chance I wouldn't have met my wife. So it's like there's less things than the degree and like the knowledge that gets stored away that I took away from college that I kind of am thankful for. But yeah, it's we're with like so many people can say, "Oh, I have this degree," but it's like, okay, now do something with it. If people get to that point.
Oh yeah, and man, I'm gonna be honest. There's a lot of people who have degrees that they didn't try that hard to get that degree, and then
Yeah, because like if they take like an easy major or just
yeah.
like an easy route.
And I'll say this: I am not the smartest guy in the world. I consider myself stupid on some levels. I just can regurgitate things very well. I can play the system. You have me do some crazy complex math? Fuck no. Nice try. Yeah, no, my brain don't bite on that one. But you have me like, for example, I can deduce on a multiple choice test like an easier, like I can kind of figure out what the right answer is, even if I don't know the source material, just based off certain variables that happen when you're trying to fake an answer. Like when you look at an answer, like two of them will be usually common, they'll look very similar to each other. And I can use that and just a little bit of knowledge to typically pass most things, and I don't study, I don't write things down. I learn it and then I can just let it go if I need to. But if it's interesting, if it's something that's important, it's a talking point, I hold on to it. And I'll get further into those points later. But yeah, dude, the education system is very flawed. When I'm sitting in class and I'm watching a girl play Tetris in front of me, and we're in the middle of a pandemic, so all our professors are. By the way, there is an agenda in colleges. I don't care what anyone says. You can see by the different political tones that are generated in certain colleges that there is an agenda. Politics finds its way in colleges easily, and I don't think that it's good that an institution of education has a effect on political leaning outside
Mhm.
of, because like I can tell professors do
Well, there's just
bring.
the overall stigma that universities are liberal. Like most professors are liberal and like fall on that side of the spectrum. That's just a stigma and obviously a stereotype that doesn't apply to all professors, but there is the stigma. And as you've been through it, I have as well. I mean, it obviously fits the, like, again, the stigma of, oh, colleges are a heavily liberal like umbrella to be under.
Well, dude, honestly, what I think about too is I think there's kind of this trickle down effect to the stigma that a Republican professor is probably going to be a stick in the ass kind of type, and a liberal professor or like someone who's more conservative is just kind of like, oh, they're out of the times, and then a liberal professor just seems very enabling to their student base, which is like, I understand, we're adults, we all struggle, but like, dude, like some people could game this system. Luckily, I have integrity and I wouldn't do that. But you could easily game this system, and I've looked at it that way, and I've looked at that perspective. I'm like, man, I could ghost through this shit easily, and it's just there needs to be a desire to be there. That's the other thing. A lot of college kids, they don't want to be there. You see it in their faces. You see it in what they're learning. Why would we try to force ourselves to learn things that don't benefit us, that don't make sense to us, that don't even work towards our degree? It's like, I understand you think you're expanding someone's ability to think and reason, and maybe in some ways you're increasing their vocabulary, but like, man, I don't know. I've been going to college for 2 years now. My vocabulary is still fucked, so I don't. In some ways, so I understand talking to like when you're talking in a certain setting, talking professionally, but I just feel like there's a certain kind of etiquette that's held in colleges as well. It's that etiquette that's soft spoken, liberal, and it's welcoming. Don't get me wrong, it's welcoming, but also you look at all these kids now as they're coming up because they're younger than me, man. It's weird to know. Some of them just look so soft. Like, and I don't mean like I understand, like I have had my emotional battles. Like we have all had our emotional battles. I accept mental health as a very major concern. But then you look at some of them and you look into the eyes and you're just like, God, you need bullied. And it's like, and I don't mean it in like I don't mean it in like this, oh, we need to tear this person down. But good God, they put themselves on a princess pedestal that does not exist in reality. And it's like, if you're not checked, like you're not gonna find reality very welcoming because it
Yeah.
catches up no matter what. Like life catches up. You get ugly, you get saggy in life, or like like say you're one of these people who's just very very ready to cry and go run and like call for their parent to help them. Like I feel like we're gonna see a generation of adults that actually call their parents if someone starts yelling at them.
Yeah.
I really think we are. I think we're gonna see a situation break out where people are in the streets and they get in an argument, and one of them's gonna call their mom, and they're gonna yell at them. They're gonna have their mom yell at them.
Yeah. Put me on speaker. Let me like,
You don't
yeah.
talk to my little boy like that.
like your son's
my
32.
little girl, boy, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. But yeah, I find it really because like there's some good ones. I see the good ones. Don't get me wrong. Like this is not to say all college kids. Like there's a lot of young, bright, up and coming minds that I could see, but it's just there's this demographic. I see it. I see it coming out, and it's so cringe. It just bothers me. It's just and it's not that I oppose their lifestyles. You know, like fuck it, dude. I will walk around in a giant mascot costume the rest of my life and feel pleased as hell. If you want to walk around dressed the way you are, go ahead. It's only when it seems like it's getting shotgun blasted, injected into my culture is when it starts to feel a little uncomfortable. When it's not like a smooth transition of acceptance, it just feels like it's just kind of like, here's this, you must accept it because it breaks the laws of everything you understand. But yes. And then you're just like, what? And you're just sitting there like shrugging your shoulders, like, but no, science, all these things, stuff like
Yeah.
that. Like there's these conflicts against different ways of thinking that are out there. And I'm alluding to the trans community as one aspect of thinking. It's like I have not liked what has happened to Dave Chappelle about this shit at all.
Oh yeah.
I don't like any of that. I think this is ridiculous. It tells me how crazy society's gotten. Like you see, like I'm watching a video of this person literally yelling, "Repent, motherfucker," into this dude's face, who was just there holding a sign that just said Dave Chappelle is funny
Yeah.
during the Netflix walkout. She's like yelling, "Repent, motherfucker! Repent, motherfucker!" And I'm just like sitting here like, no, she's retarded. And like, and it was like, it's kind of funny. Like I was just picturing like Steve over there, look, crikey. And if you look at here, we got ourselves a reckless release of Netflix Transylvanians. I quite don't know where they identify them from because they just call themselves trans. Let's go poke him with a stick. Oh God, it's yelling, repent, motherfucker. Like, why are they so why are they so attacky like that though, bro? Like, why do they come at it like people who are just there having a conflicting view? Because here's the thing, I don't come at them like that. You know, I don't come at anyone like that unless like their view is literally like absolute bonkers nonsense. For me to say that right now means I acknowledge the trans community is not absolute bonkers nonsense. I am not dismissing that kind of people. You know what I mean? Like it's just holy fuck, give me a second here to catch my breath before you all of a sudden appear on my Tinder and I'm not sure anymore. My Matrix reality just broke, bro. I got fucking like I don't know. My dating app generates dudes now. How am I supposed to feel about that, bro? Like it's I'll be sitting there and I'll just like, all right, that girl's cute, that girl's cute. All says like, that's a big dick.
Oh.
So it's just fucking swipe right. I mean,
Yeah. But no, with the Dave Chappelle thing, it's just interesting that you bring that up in that video, and it makes you think back to like the people who protest in general and how, in a lot of cases, the I mean, it's the liberal side of things that are like they're protesting, and then if somebody shows up who is trying to like voice their opinion and it differs, it automatically resorts to violence, even though that side is against violence, promoting peace, and they want that like they want all these equal things. Which, I mean, there's crooked people in the world that are preventing that, but ultimately they do have the same rights. But it's just like it's crazy to see just like the double standard of like, oh, we're against violence, we hate to see these things, but then if somebody stands in the way of that, they then provoke violence against it. So it's like I said, it's a double standard that
there's a hypocrisy in it that they can justify. It's like a holy crusade, man.
Yeah,
it's with like
the whole
that.
Yeah, even with the whole like George Floyd thing of like, yeah, it was a like that whole thing, like obviously a terrible thing that happened, but it's like burning down businesses and vandalizing property like that, you're like you're committing a crime as well. Like don't get me wrong, I would consider murder a more severe crime than vandalism, but nonetheless, a response to a crime is not to commit another crime. Like, what point are you trying to get
Well, you
across?
gotta. Well, that's just it. They're not trying to get a point across. It's not about. It's not about George Floyd. It's not about those brotherly love. And like we got to address it. And I'm sorry, skin does not unite a people. Stop acting like all of these. Like I understand, like all these people coming together. Black Lives Matter. No, some of you guys even think that some of your those lives don't matter. And I'll make the argument right now. There are some people in your communities that you will see run through your neighborhoods and just absolutely destroy them, wreak havoc, cause chaos, form gangs, and destabilize everything you love and know, take your family members from you. And I'm talking about black on black crime, Hispanic on Hispanic crime, anywhere these ethnic groups have this kind of conflict within their own race. So understand that not all of us are out to get you in that respect, that like we're all just trying to get through it, and the more we keep talking about the skin issue, the longer we're going to keep stalling ourselves out. Personally, is my belief, because if I can't even look at you and just understand that you're not thinking about the fact that I'm white, or you're thinking I'm thinking about the fact that you're black, where does the conversation really start? Because
Mm-hmm.
you're living in your black world and then you perceive I'm living in my white world, and vice versa. And do we really ever actually find commonality? Or are we just sitting down and playing this bullshit game of back and forth? And the reality is, I would love to sit down with everyone in this world if I could and have the conversation. I hate conversation, bro. I'm terrified to talk to people these days because the stupidity freaks me out.
And again, they can't, like, on top of that, like the cancel culture too, of if you say something wrong, and they have the platform and the following to twist your words or make you look bad. Like, people jump on that so quick nowadays that, like, again, the cancel culture where people think, oh, I'm for this issue. I see this person against that issue. If I can get thousands of people to out that person, it's going to make me feel better. And honestly, I guarantee 9 times out of 10, or even 10 times out of 10, it doesn't make that person feel better, because of that, like, because eventually it's going to eat away at them that I caused this person's downfall, or I took this person's career or friends away from them.
Well, I honestly, I think you give too much power to their will to see the good in things, because I don't think they're gonna feel remorseful. I don't think they give a fuck. I think they feel really good about what they did. I think they'll be like, yeah, fuck him. Yeah, that's right. His family let them. Yes, yes, more, more, more. I want to see him fucking bent over a barrel and I don't know, a pitchfork shoved up his ass. Handle first. And it's just like it's that kind of mentality that these trolls develop, because these guys have been trolling since the development of social media. As you and me have seen it as we came up as kids, really watch how this shit skyrocketed. Seeing like the internet was in an infancy stage, that because I thought, like, that was as big as it was, I mean, like some games on there, we go do some email shit like that. It's become reality for people. And
Mm-hmm.
I don't say that lightly. There are some people who are so immersed in their social media culture that it becomes their identity in a lot of ways. Like they gain so much satisfaction out of getting a lot of likes on a picture. There's people who turned a job out of OnlyFans. There are people who have literally made the internet their source of income, their their main source of communication, their their way to interact with their friends and their family 90% of the time. What does that do to the human brain? What does that do to the human being who is meant to dig through the dirt and carve a path beyond human? And I don't think this was it. I don't think this was you know what I mean? Like when I look at tech and shit like that, like it kind of scares me these days, bro.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
And I feel like too, over the past year and a half with the whole pandemic situation, I feel like that sped up the advancement of technology that much more as well. With, I mean, for instance, this form of communication we're using right now, Zoom, became such a huge thing over the past couple of years. And like you said, so many people are relying on social media to establish their personality, not their physical traits, and not what they bring to the table, but rather what words they type onto a screen. And I feel like too, with a lot of people being isolated from human interaction and locked up in their homes, that's going to have repercussions for such a long time that people who already were on that barrier of being socially awkward, I feel like we'll never be able to come back from it because of, again, being locked away in their homes for X amount of time, whether it was by, I mean, mandate or by choice. Um, yeah, I feel like it's just like, I mean,
Well, dude,
this has already lasted like longer than anybody's expected, and I feel like it's only going to double, if not triple, the repercussions of once it's ended. Like once you take the pandemic label off of it, it's still going to go on for years to come before we see a
oh,
change.
dude, it's not even just that either. There's so many things that allow us to like telecommunications, stuff like that, more and more digitalized jobs. It's helping society to divide itself even further from physical interaction. I was just at Taco Bell the other day, and the lady literally told me, because when I drove up, oh, actually it was McDonald's. When I drove up, I cut off the person whose order it was because it was like a 2-lane one. And I was explaining to her like, oh no, that's his order. And I was like, oh, I feel bad. She's like, oh no, that's just how it goes. And she's like, I'm just glad you said something. She's like, there's people who just don't even speak. Like, how did you like? So you just go out there and you get your food and you don't say a single word to the people. Like, you just order your food and that's it. And then you just don't speak to the other human being that's next. Like, do people do that to each other a lot? And then I think about it, I'm like, oh fuck yeah, they do. Subway train and stuff like that. We have trained our brains to be surrounded by people and feel alone at the same time because we are socially isolating our our way of thinking. And that's why we all probably feel these deep depressive states because we don't actually want to connect to people because we think people are bad because we see it everywhere, because of social media. People suck.
Mhm. And again,
It's
with COVID,
everywhere.
people use that as an excuse to allow them to not interact with people. Rather than being like, oh, that person's just so socially awkward, people who aren't socially awkward can use COVID as an excuse to, oh, I'm keeping my space. I'm not talking to people. So it's just like it's it's just giving people more and more excuses to justify their actions of, again, making society and communication as human beings go in the reverse direction.
Oh yeah, and dude, even the people who do go out, like I go to the bars and shit like that. Like I went out in Stevens Point on Halloween. Saw a lot of other cowboys there. I was the only one with like a Lone Ranger mask though, so fuck the rest of y'all if you ever hear this. Uh, but dude, it was so packed there, and that made me feel good. But then just like I didn't say a damn word to anyone else I didn't know. I literally felt like they were just all background characters. Like they're all just backdrop. And I'm like, man, this is because like they all just seem so isolated to themselves. Like it's like everyone's partying around each other, not with each other in some ways. And it's a weird phenomenon. I've seen it in Chicago before too, where everyone's just out there, like they're all on their phones and shit. And it's just like this is a weird, I'd say like a unexpected consequence of the social social digital age. I'll call it an unexpected consequence that we're now dealing with, and we were the guinea pigs of it. Like Facebook is getting dragged through Congress for allegedly, apparently, that their websites have altered the states of human minds in the way that, like, think about it, it's affected a underage girl's way of thinking to cause her to have depression, stuff like that. If that study is verified, think about how we came up with no regulation on social media. A lot of the female perspectives in our generation have shifted, and a lot of the male perspectives in our generation have shifted solely based around the social media presence and the algorithms they've generated for themselves. Think about it. A guy's mad at a girl, he starts like looking at shit that makes him more mad at women. Or he isolates himself away from it. And like, porn is so easily accessible. Dudes are just like, fuck it, like whatever. And there's also on this other side, this weird sexual renaissance, at least I've experienced among women. Like, it's like, look, if you want to be a hoe as a woman, and I say hoe because I call myself a hoe too, when I'm out there being a hoe, be a hoe. It's okay. From a male, whatever the fuck you guys call it, cis. I don't even know. From one human being to another, to anybody out there, Do not fuck with another human being's emotions. Period. If you're trying to just have sex with that human being, because people are soft, people are delicate, people have come up on romance movies, everything like this. I see the story and like it's my story in a lot of ways, but also other people I've talked to who have feelings. Like men were raised more by their moms in a lot of ways. Like I've talked to a lot of guys whose dads were not there, so they came up under a more feminine household. I mean, look at Lake. He almost got too much of that feminine in his household. But it's he's with his first girlfriend ever. You know, like it's like men are like getting told this very conservative, sweet love story through this in this small bubble in small towns. And I don't know how it comes up with cities. I know most moms teach their sons to treat women right though. But women, and I'm sorry, but it seems like there's monsters out there, there's boogeymen out there fucking you guys up mentally, doing horrible things to you, and we'll get them. You know, like that, like people got to come forward. If people are hurting people, changing their mental state, like fucking with them, like actually psychologically fucking a person down to the point that they feel worthless, or even beating them or hurting them, or God forbid, assaulting them in other ways. Like, you know, like if someone's doing that shit, there's got to be a community that comes together, and we forgot how to have community, and that's why all these problems persist. Sorry for the long ramble there, but it's getting that point across that community is so important that we've lost it, that it means so much in so many levels. It's how we come together to intermingle, build a social network, not our phones. You don't feel love through your phone. And then AI, don't even get me started on AI, bro. Algorithms, bro. I'm telling you, algorithms are going to be the downfall of humanity. Everyone's just seeing what they want to see. No one's thinking outside the algorithm. And if you are, props to you. Like I'm not saying no one, just a lot of people.
Yeah, I guess I mean, there's a couple more topics kind of under this umbrella that I jotted down. I want to go over, but I'm staring at one word on my screen that I guess to kind of switch gears. That I know your eyes are gonna light up as soon as I say it.
Oh, I can't wait.
Aliens.
All right. I want to take this from a serious standpoint at first, but then we'll get speculative. So, on an official capacity of my understanding of aliens, there is no official evidence of aliens yet. The most official thing I can say about what I've researched in terms of science and stuff like that is Avi Loeb's. He's a professor at Harvard. He started the Galileo project. They're going to be looking for shit in our like floating around in our atmosphere. They're going to be looking for alien satellites. They are also going to, next time an interstellar object comes into our solar system, which what happened. I forgot what year it was, but it was called a Muamua, and Avi Loeb hypothesized the idea that it was a object of another civilizations, like it's an interstellar advanced civilizations space probe. And because what happened was when Oumuamua was coming by the sun, it ignored the gravitational pull of the sun, and it accelerated around the sun, and it sped up.
Mm.
And that's a very weird characteristic. Like that's not a meteor, that's not a comet. It does not accelerate like that without losing its tumble rate, because its tumble rate, because it was tumbling, stayed the same. And that just really fucking throws it off. And the argument made against Avi Loeb's proposal was that, oh, it's I think they said it was hydrogen clouds or something like that, like, or the hydrogen like freezes, and when it melts, it could cause it to propel forward. But Avi Loeb dismissed this by stating that hydrogen has a low boiling point, even in the vacuum of space. That the frozen hydrogen would have been gone by now, and so yeah, they didn't really make any other solid arguments against it yet. But yeah, and I just read a article written by that same professor. It's on Scientific American. God, I can't speak. Scientific American. There we go. scientificamerican.com. It's written by Avi Loeb. He's talking about the idea, the hypothesis that our universe could have been created by an advanced civilization through the use of quantum mechanics
Oh yeah,
and physics.
you sent me that the other day. Was our
Yeah,
universe created in a lab?
yeah,
Is that where this comes off of?
yeah. So that's the professor who wrote it, the one who did the whole Oumuamua thing. So like he said he's gonna be releasing a bunch of interesting articles, like he's or like papers, I suppose. So he's just a fun, interesting scientist. He still has that spark of love for that pursuit, you know, like he's not going to let the science, because he said there's this thing that happens in the science community where they just try to like, nah, just miss it. Like they're trying to bury the idea. And it's like, what the fuck? Like there's
Mm-hmm.
actual battle about this, which tells me like, is there insiders on this? You know what I mean? That makes me just wonder, it's like, are there people intentionally in our society trying to bury something? And that's one of the things, one of those ways of thinking that kind of fueled my rabbit hole with all of the stuff that I'll get into, that I'd probably make the argument as speculative from this point. I don't want to speak on the behalf of like I know anything,
Yeah,
but
I guess going back to like the first sentence you mentioned, that of you don't think that there is any feasible evidence that aliens exist. Obviously, there's, I mean, countless of potato quality videos out there and some evidence that people may or may not have found that may or may not have got fabricated or is man-made. Obviously, sorting through all that, like myself, I feel like you've gone through more of it than I have. Um, what 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 made you get to the hypothesis of not being enough evidence to prove that they are real at this moment?
so because when I look at things like in science, because I love researching other things that they're doing in science, like how they play around with lasers and shit like that, and how they're working towards like fusion, which is just, dude, like Fallout's happening and it's cool. Like, you know, like this, I don't understand the science behind a lot of this stuff. I try to, but like I said, I'm dumb. I got dumb brain when it comes to numbers, but I pick up books anyways. And I try to. It's just cool stuff to try to understand.
Mm-hmm.
But seeing some of the stuff they're working on, and I try to make sure I go to these, like, you know, the official websites of like research uh institutions versus just trying to, you know, go Google or just YouTube. Even though YouTube, I find it does have like some reliable stuff to watch in terms of videos, because it's not like if you look across, like I always fact check everything I see on there too.
Yeah. Well, just because it's
But
not regulated, so you don't know the credibility of who created what you're watching.
oh yeah, and then so you just get, yeah, you got to always double check the information and then make sure it's not like it's not something that's like controversial to a point that it's like, all right, this is probably fake.
Mm-hmm.
So the reason I concluded that there is no actual evidence is because as a skeptical person, not saying there's not evidence out there, but there is not public evidence, and there's a reason for that, because I don't think we even know or how to begin to understand what is alien, what is not, because I believe components of our society right now are alien. I think there are things that are introduced in our society that was created and implemented from alien technology and sped up the technological age to some extent. And I do think that there's been some influence on our culture to paint a certain understanding and picture of what aliens and UFOs are, but I think it's a very off the mark point. I think when we think about space, the problem is we think so narrowly about it. So to say that they're aliens is kind of insulting. Not like to go with Demi Lovato on this one. I hate that shit. Like I don't know if you saw that. She came out and she
Oh,
was, yeah,
so it's
like
offensive to call them aliens.
yeah, like I don't like to go with her on that. Like not because like, but I don't know. Maybe she's on that on the understanding, because they might be extra dimensional beings. They might not be aliens, and I have a couple ways of thinking for this. Out because when you look at dimensional uh travel to do it, doesn't seem so implausible for a 4-dimensional being to mess around with a 3-dimensional plane when we 3-dimensional beings always mess around with 2-dimensional planes all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And now there's also the idea to introduce that goes beyond aliens, parallel universes. It would be pretty easy for an advanced civilization in a multiverse to figure out how to breach between a universe and another universe. And I know that's a crazy far-reaching concept, but I think that's one that's going to be kind of tossed around in the future. And I honestly think there are beings that can literally fuck with our thoughts. And not saying I've ever had it happen to me, but like I'm not like out here like, oh yeah, I got my brain scrambled by Zoltan.
Yeah.
It's more like,
Well, I mean, even like it. I mean, it's kind of already happening, not necessarily by being, but by your phones, by technology. That alone can change a person's thoughts or the way
well,
they
exactly.
feel. Like you could be having a terrible day and you watch a video of puppies rolling around and it makes you happy, or you could be having a good day and you watch a puppy get run over by a vehicle. Like technology, our phones have the power to change our emotions and our thoughts.
Oh, dude, Amazon does it too. When their website, when their app is down, there's a puppy that pops up saying, "Sorry, we'll be back up soon," or something like that. It's just like a puppy. I'm like, why is there a puppy on my screen? I'm just like looking at it. I'm like, oh, they're trying to make me feel better. I was
Yeah.
like, that's a weird one. And I was, it's like, what the fuck is this puppy doing?
It should just be a picture of Jeff Bezos,
Yeah, just fucking jerking
like
off
I'll
on
be
the
back,
American.
or I'll be back to taking your money in a few moments.
I
Like,
wanted it. No, I wanted to just be like a little repeating animation of him like flying on a little rocket ship, jerking off over America as it's burning, and like
uh,
don't worry, we'll be back soon. And he'll like fly back and he'll be jerking off over it. Like, see,
had to go drink
but
some pineapple juice and
oh hell no, you would drink pickle. You drink pickle juice. You don't like us. He wants all our money. But dude, that's another interesting concept. So I have a very fun hypothesis to run by you, or not hypothesis, conspiracy theory. We'll go with that. We'll call this
about
one full on
Amazon.
conspiracy. Oh no, about billionaires.
Okay.
So and it's this show I watched called The Badlands. I haven't watched it in a while, but the concept was like there was all these like rich independent monarchs pretty much that like all ran their own little nations. And I'm like sitting here thinking like oh, I'm seeing billionaires are buying up land and shit like that. What if like if the US economy collapses, all these oligarchs, these billionaires just are like, well, you could always come work for me, and then they just try to like fucking, because that's another thing. Now we're getting into political, and I do have a lot of heavy thoughts about this. And it's just because I don't know. I will say this. Maybe this is all just a big wave that's passing over and everything's going to be a-okay. Maybe. But let's talk about the maybe not, because the maybe not's more fun, right? So let's talk about the maybe not. Let's say things are getting as politically bad as sometimes I can think. Let's say China is beating us now in terms of military power. China has hypersonic missiles. The US does not. We have nothing to defend against hypersonic missiles. And that is just what they have shown us technologically. China has dominated us in climate control technology. I believe they actually just figured out a way to alter weather, which is fascinating.
Mm-hmm.
But I will say
Otherwise,
this.
I saw one thing that it was either in China or Japan. They're literally putting up, they look like skyscrapers, but they're air filters. They're basically giant, like mechanized, whatever the fuck. It's not a building you go into. It's a giant machine that's basically a giant filter that they're putting in high smog areas in like Japan or like China, whichever might be both, that it's literally cleaning the air
The
in
world is
those
going so
areas.
sci-fi, man. But then China's economy is tanking, but I just feel like China's gonna find a way to make that work because they'll just, I don't know, wipe out half their population if they need to, I guess. But because they just don't have to worry about ethics. And they have already beat us in AI technology. There was an employee that worked at the Pentagon. I think he was the cybersecurity chief. He quit. He resigned, saying that we've already lost the war to China in terms of cybersecurity. We have not developed AI to the level we should have in terms of defensive measures. And honestly, dude, our whole system is a joke here. It's so hackable. It's so easily hackable to shut down the grids, I guess, apparently. Like the Russians and the Chinese just get in all the time. And by easy, I don't mean like, oh, you're typical run of the mill hacker, but you got one of these fucking, you're one of your smart ones, one of your nerds that pops out of the womb with glasses on. Fucking has been looking at a screen since you've been born. They can easily just abuse the shit out of our system and shut us down that way. And one thing I noticed about panic in America, holy fuck, we are retarded. Toilet paper? Really? Like of all the things, like like when we actually sit back and reflect on that, shame. We should all feel shame. All of us. Because somehow that's in our genetics to think, oh, massive pandemic, better make sure I have enough toilet paper so I can shit a lot. Apparently, I'm gonna be shitting for this whole pandemic. I'm gonna be on the toilet the whole time looking for updates on my Twitter, shitting because I need 30 fucking rolls of toilet paper.
Yeah.
And you end up buying out a whole store, trampling grandma who's just on her way to go pick up the adult diapers. She doesn't even need toilet paper. And then we did that. We did that, Collin. Our people did that. Human beings did that. Human beings are doing what's happening in our political system right now. It's like the most ridiculous cartoon I've ever seen. Like I'm gonna reflect back on this. I want someone to animate the political atmosphere for the last 2 years exactly, moving into the next two. I want them to cartoon it. I want them to draw it out and animate it. And I guarantee if you play it out, it's gonna look just like a fucking show. It's gonna look just like a show, bro, because it's just like, what the fuck? This is ridiculous. How are our political leaders acting like this? Like, and what I know now about public administration and how the bureaucratic system works in terms of like, there's just so many moving pieces and cogs in this giant fucking beast of, I guess, capitalism is just destructive, dude. It just eats and it's like turns everyone into these fucking greedy little pigs who just want to suck the nipple of the top because they want to get to the top because there's just a me world in a lot of ways. And some people do get lucky that get into the millionaire systems, but like these billionaires, man, I just feel like I don't know. I don't know how to feel about them. Like you got Elon Musk all buddied up with China. So he's already got his piece. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think these people care about the American people in the ways they say they do. They just look at us as required numbers because when you're that detached from that many people with that much wealth, that much power, literally knowing you could do anything and you're untouchable in some respect and a genius to boot because you got to be a genius in some way to get there. Now, I'll make the argument that they might lack some pretty hardcore morals and emotional intelligence because they sacrificed that part of themselves to get to the top. But I mean, look at the whole Jeffrey Epstein thing, man. Look at like, have you seen the Bill Gates interview where he gets like confronted? He
I don't
just
think
gets
so.
asked a question, bro. He gets asked a question about like the whole Jeffrey, like going to Jeffrey Epstein for dinner, and he's or just like knowing him, and he's like, yep, those dinners were a mistake, and he gets all antsy and shit, and it's just like, what the fuck? And then it just gets worse and worse, and it's like, dude, what is going on here? Like, no, don't tell me Bill Gates was out here banging. And like, we got to put this mental image in anyone who hears this head banging underage girls. The man who made Microsoft. I can't look at my Xbox the same. He's probably watched me since I was young. Good thing I didn't jump on the Xbox train until I was hairy. So fuck you. But it's messed up, man, to think that there's these people in these positions who have even done what they've done or collaborated with who they have that become untarnished because they are untouchable by pure wealth alone. We don't live in a capitalistic country. We live in a capitalistic world. Money truly can protect you from anything and everything. It can buy you anything when you have enough of it. That's why everyone is getting so greedy and so greed hungry. You can see the way it's evolving over time, the way people are shifting, sexualizing everything. Everything is blowing up. Everything is expanding. Morals are getting tossed aside because fuck them. Who needs them? It's time to expand. It's time to love everyone and everything. Disband the police for some reason, and like let's try that one. I guess fucking idiots, but it's so. Oh, by the way, they tried to literally in Minneapolis. Look it up. I think it was the hearing was like 2 days ago. They tried to get rid of their police system and they were going to replace it with something else, some other kind of social civil servant system. Yeah, they got that declined. So good, 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 good. Because I don't think a lot of people understand in these movements what the fuck they're talking about and what they're asking of their country and what rights they're sacrificing every day. For one, we could talk back about the pandemic if you want. COVID has got me rattled, bro. Not even on a vaccines don't fucking put chips in you. They're not trying to mind control you, you fucking nerds. Get out of your take whatever's going on in your neck beard out because it's causing some kind of weird lack of blood flow to your brain. So because listen, like vaccines, go get them if you want them. If that's the only reason you're scared of them, but you actually want to get it. But now if you're like me, who's actually had my freedom taken, say no to a shot. I used to have to get shots all the time. Couldn't say no. There's no in that. There's just you got to do it monthly all the time. It always felt that I feel like I got anthrax like just going through my blood. Dude, I pee and it glows. I don't think anthrax does that. It actually just kills everything around me in a 20-meter radius. But it's so the reason I neglect the vaccine is because I am exercising one of those beautiful rights that I just got back in 2019, right when the pandemic hit. I refuse to live under a rule that is not in my contract. I do not have a contract with the government that says I need this vaccine. There's no contract that I signed my life away to. My contract is done. Why are they trying to mandate it? Why are they trying to force it? I literally asked my VA advisor the other day, what do I have to do to drop out of college if they try to force this vaccine? So that's another reason too. And she's like, oh, good question. Because she's all on board too. Like she knows the world's going crazy. We were talking for a while about it. It was awesome. A lot of the veteran community are on the same way of thinking now after Afghanistan. Like, if you still believe in our administration, if you don't think it's just a ridiculous pony show, it's just some kind of fucking charade, dude. It's gotta be. There's no way, like, like what's going on here? Like when you actually look at everything that's happening, it's like, how is this happening? Like, think about where we were like 4-5 years ago, and now think about like, all right, we got fucking this guy who's literally pretty much halfway dead, leading our country. The fuck? We have a general who just became a woman, a 4-star general, apparently. I haven't looked into that one too much, so don't call me on that. But yeah, apparently that's a thing. Go check out the new Army promotional video and hear about Emma and her 2 moms. Well, North Korea is making military promotional videos of dudes using fucking nunchucks and shit and kicking boards and beating each other, and China's showing literal nukes in theirs and like fucking badass, just like uniformity. Well, we got America animated. It all started in Long Beach, California. There I was with my 2 lesbian moms. I was made in a test tube. I don't actually know how it played out, but it plays out similar to that in some very gross vein of thinking that like people care about your social circumstance. Like, listen, most of us know and are self-aware of what the military is. It's a cruel machine that just takes the poor or those who cannot afford to succeed in a lot of ways and gives them the means to go die. It's like it's a merciless meat grinder for the government to throw away assets and to trickle money through a system. They get so much money. These people make billions. The military industrial complex is such a great place to gain money, dude. And it's ignored because it's the military. You know? No, who's gonna look for corruption in the military? Like, you get your onesies and twosies, but oh God forbid, like we actually go investigate.
Mm-hmm.
And then we actually go investigate, I don't know, our politicians. It's kind of weird how what's her name? Fucking Pelosi and her husband have just expanded their wealth so much by doing pretty much what I'd consider insider stock sharing information. Because like when you politically control the policies that affect the way stocks are going to reallocate along the market, doesn't that call for concern when that person can just go sit down with, say, the head of, I don't know, Apple and cut a deal with the CEO? Be like, we can push for this policy if you cut us the share on these deal on these shares. Next thing you know, the Pelosi's are rich. They're already rich because money makes money. That's how America is a lie. There's no it's really hard to come up. There's the success stories, but let's be realistic. It's just like any video game you play, like when you're trying to get to the top of the board of like the inner first you start with a community ranking. You get to the top, you're like, hell yeah, but next thing you know, you're at a state ranking. It's like, oh shit, now you're like 350th place. Then you got to climb that. Then there's you know what I mean? It's so hard to actually carve a path out in America.
To make like you mentioned like a video game reference, like it's almost like microtransactions. So if you want to get to the top, you have to go where the money is and be able to like have deep pockets. Obviously, like again, dumbing it down. Oh, if you want the best gun, you want the best advantages in the world, you gotta have deep pockets.
Yeah, you gotta be able to have that starting paycheck, man. That you gotta have that fucking pay to play fucking life. And look at it, it shows true because video games mirror reality. And reality is starting to show its true colors. Here's another interesting aspect. What if we're just a simulation? And I say that sincerely. On top of I think there's several ways this could work. Because now we're getting to the philosophical question of what are we? How do we exist? Why are we here? What is all of this? The big one, what the fuck is existence? I'm kind of curious where your heart tells you and then where logic tells
you. As far as
what do you think is reality?
Well, I mean, that question can be answered 7 billion ways or however many people there are in the world because everybody has a different reality. Obviously, everybody's realities overlap in some ways due to following the same
universal reality. Let me clarify. Universal reality. So not the reality that you and me are living in our illusion. Because we live in our own perceptive reality.
Yeah.
Which is not a reliable reality at all. What is the truth underlying that's not altered by our presence? What is the reality that's around us? Is it a simulation? Are we a zoological experiment for aliens? Is there a heaven and hell? Kind of just conclusively what you kind of draw as an answer, if you've ever thought about one. I guess you could say your I love this wordplay that I've seen on a couple books I have. Theory of everything.
I guess from the heart, obviously, whether it's a it could be a religious take, or it could be scientific. it's the wondering and of like what happens after we die, like, and obviously the religious side of things is like you mentioned, is there a heaven and a hell? That's where my heart is, where my like mind is, and like what I've been able to educate myself on is, and we've talked about this before, is obviously there's some ideas that are like outlandish and like, okay, that's a less probability than this, but nonetheless every idea ever mentioned of simulation, alternate realities, parallel universes, even if some seem more probable than others, none of the chances are 0%. So that's what's like cool about it, is there's not a right answer. Obviously, like from the heart, people think that there's a right answer, and that's where you get like the differing in people
I
with
will make the I make the argument though. Not to interrupt. I do think there is a right answer. I do think there is a right answer, and I think that's the worst part about it. I think that's why humanity fights it so hard to understand more. I think that's why I
well,
think
there
there's
is a right answer. It's just that nobody is confident enough to think that their answer is the right answer.
I think there's someone in our government that knows the right answer.
Well, yeah, somebody somewhere knows all the answers. Again, whether it's a person who's one of the most powerful people on the planet, or again, from a religious standpoint, if there is a higher being, they would know as well. But um, yeah,
So
that's where the butting of heads is a lot in the world, is where how somebody thinks the other person might think the opposite. Neither person wants to be wrong, so as much as each person is right, each person is wrong, which is why there's it's hard to get more than one person on the same page as far as, again, simulations, reality, like, I mean, the list goes on of what we could be living in.
oh, exactly, dude. It's and then there's those people who will just deny and deny and deny. Like they
Mm-hmm.
will like even if there's more evidence presented, there will be those who will because due to their sanity being wrapped in their beliefs, they will not be able to untether from what they consciously are aware of. Like I've been trying to open my way of thinking to a lot of different information, and I don't say it on like this, like, oh, I'm going on this spiritual hippie-esque journey. It's more of like, well, what if life just got weird tomorrow? I always like to think about that. Like I've always been like an imaginative kind of guy. Like I like to imagine like crazy shit happening all the time. Like, dude, like imagine like you're just like chilling, watching movies. Next thing you know, your fucking roof just gets ripped off by a giant goddamn monster. And then like you're just sitting there and like you're just nasty in your underwear covered in potato chips. Like, really? This is the way I'm gonna die, and then all of a sudden you see a fucking fighter jet come fly through. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I like to just create imaginary shit like that for fun because it's a good time. But now, because I can do that, and now like there's things I can kind of think a little deeper on. I honestly lost where I was going with this. we'll give. What was your last thought? Sorry,
We're just
we're
talking
about to end
about
this one.
no, we were just talking about like simulated reality and how like
Yes. So
nobody has the right answer except for maybe one person, and it's a matter
so
of
when it goes deeper to thinking like, okay, the reason I think that if this isn't a simulation, that uh we're going to see some very crazy shit soon either way. Because either what this technology is, I think has something to do with this kind of program that we're ran. And I'm not saying we're not biological, like we're made of meat. I'm not saying like, oh, we're numbers or digital, like we're existing in some computer. I'm saying we're the kind of like we are simulated species, like kind of like how you take animals and you put them in an environment and you try to see what would happen if you introduce certain factors, kind of like in Fallout, what they do with their vaults.
mm-hmm.
And we're something like that. What happens when you introduce this aspect to a society? And now they ran out of good ideas, and now look at us. Now we're dealing with a cartoon of a president. Because, like, I mean, come on, dude, this is just so ridiculous. Like, oh, and beyond, like, our like, I feel like we have pretty political similarities actually, but even beyond my differences with other people politically, Literally just look at the man. Not even like, I'm just asking you, look at him, visually look at him. Just take it all in. Really appreciate it. And now think about it. Think about how that man's face is looking at you right now. His eyeballs contorted all weird and twisted in. And his fucking skin folds all flapped over on themselves, and his weird neck hairline thing going on. You realize something. This guy is old and this guy is gross looking. Why do we have an old, gross looking dude who can barely hold a conversation, who falls upstairs, who
And
literally
falls
looks like he's young
asleep
as
in the middle of an interview.
like, how did they get their hands so far up this poor man's butthole that they got him to play president? Dude, did Kamala Harris just come all in fucking freak style and just go elbow deep on him and just say you're mine for the main presidency because they'll never accept anyone else but an old white guy? Was he just like a throwaway piece? They're like, old Joe Biden's been in the old Senate for over 30 years. We could just use him. Just throw him away. We don't care if he goes down. You know, like I feel like Biden's just a scapegoat at this point, bro. It's just
Yeah.
ridiculous. This guy seems like he has literal mental health issues.
And that's the
Like I
thing that
could
makes you wonder is if he's a distraction, that there's something bigger going on behind the scenes that they're trying
well,
to hide.
dude, the
By
media's
making it,
crumbling.
yeah,
CNN's going down. Look at what the whole lie they told about Joe Rogan about the ivermectin. He just called them out on that. That went viral, like on YouTube everywhere, dude. Like, I was checking that out, and I'm pretty sure that spread all over. Like, it even got confronted on the media, bro. They called out fucking Sanjay Gupta, the doctor. Like, Joe Rogan called him out about that lie, and it's good he did, because like, why the fuck does why does the news keep lying?
mm-hmm.
They keep telling narratives and they act like that's not a lie. And that's not the only thing they've been lying about. There's just been a lot of failures in terms of reporting. And I want to understand why. Why is reporting becoming so difficult? Come forward, be honest. What is happening in the community? Like, I want to know, because it's like you're our eyes and ears into the world beyond our communities, you know? Like, we got to know facts.
Yeah.
We can't
And it
be having
makes you
skewed
wonder
information.
because, like you said, there's so many lies, and like the media is like, it's so fucked that like, how bad is it that the lies that they're trying to portray to hide it are fucked up and bad? So it's like, okay, if they're using chocolate covered shit to cover whatever shit is underneath, like, how bad actually is it?
I honestly think we get harvested.
What do you mean?
I think I think that we get harvested by other civilizations. Like, you know, like how we pluck animals out of the ocean.
Yeah.
I I think we are simply a food source for maybe multiple things. Maybe some of them like us, because there's different levels, but there's one of them that definitely just eats us and or does weird shit to us.
Like,
And I think they're at that point where they're now having to face some fucking, like, I really think it has something to do with the alien shit. I think they're trying to cover that up, and they're trying to cover up China. They're trying to cover up China's massive takeover of pretty much, I think China's going for global domination, in my opinion. I think that's going to be their next 20-year plan. I don't I don't think it's necessarily like, and I won't say this in a whole, like, obviously America should fight, but dude, realistically, if we don't get a new administration soon, I don't see a chance.
and that's like, I agree with you as far as China kind of trying to take over. Do you think it's possible for literally the other 99% of the world to band together and stop them?
Yes, I think the answer
But
now is
will
to
they? But will they? Can you get
no.
99% of the world to go against the 1%?
So here's the thing: a world war, there's going to be one dumb knuckle dragger, and I think we all know who it's going to be out of, somewhere in the Middle East, you motherfuckers. And I'm not talking about Middle Easterns. There's a lot of cool Middle Eastern people out there. I'm talking about your knuckle dragon retard governments that like to do some crazy dumb shit to the people. And I'm sure you guys would agree since you live in America now, if you're watching this. Like to fucking decide to go crazy on a whim over religious nonsense. So I could see one of those motherfuckers who actually has an ICBM missile, a nuke. I could see one of them accidentally doing something. Well, not accidentally, belligerently and ignorantly doing something that would be horrendous and destructive to our environment and would start the doomsday clock. And we would see our planet go down, and the human species would only be survived probably by quick and speedy creation of rocket ships and launched into space, and with the technology to create artificial embryos and artificial sperm and shit like that, and use CRISPR technology to create humans, and then use AI to continue to keep building human species out in space, and have technology to sustain those ships, at least in like have them launched towards the nearest habitable planet, which they just discovered. Um, that's like actually like probably has everything we need.
Like in our universe, our solar system, or
I believe it was in our solar system. I think it wasn't too many light years away. Uh, there's a couple that aren't too far either. There's like there's a Proxima Centauri or Beta Centauri. The planets that orbit it. Proxima Centauri is a star, but one of them is a habitable one. The other one's in the non-habitable zone. So what happens to it is it's like flash froze on one side and overheated on the other. But there could even be like a strip. But they say because of Proxima Centauri's flares that it's not too good a chance there might be life there, but it's a possible planet to potentially be used. And there's a couple other ones. Yeah, like dude, they have found so many potentially habitable planets now. I think the understanding of extraterrestrial life as we know it is coming sooner than later. Like the shift in it. And I don't necessarily know how to explain why everything is going to shit right now. I mean, I think it's pretty simple economics in terms of like I think there's a lot of distractions like with that too. Like if you look at our economy is just going to shit, I think that's yet it just seems like they just keep spending money on shit, so I don't know what to believe. Like I keep seeing them throw trillions and trillions, but yet they're like, "Oh, our economy is going to shit." But it's like, yet you guys keep throwing away more money, yet nothing's like, what are you doing? Where's all this money going? And then there was a giant shift in finances to the upper class. I honestly think all the billionaires are draining their. I think they use this like a giant wallet. They use the economy. They got to the point where they monopolized so hard that this became a giant network of a wallet for them, and now they're just draining it dry by any means necessary. And they're hoarding the wealth so that they can control the future of what happens, I guess, in America. Because if you have all that money, you can build an army. You
yeah,
can protect yourself. You can at least like if you have technology, man, like Tesla. I mean, or what's his name? Elon Musk with his Tesla company building the Tesla bot. Like, dude, he could weaponize those. He has flamethrowers. He's already made them.
mm-hmm.
You could put those flamethrowers in those Tesla bots. I would. I think that's cool. Like, fuck, I want a Tesla bot with a Tesla flamethrower. Like, can it drive the Cybertruck for me too? That'd just be complete. I'd do absolutely nothing but just look at how cool it is. But and it's just that, like, he has that technology. He's still a guy. You know he's gonna
And
have
that's what
like
we know.
at
That's
least
the
some.
technology we know. You know, he's working on shit behind the scenes that would be mind blowing. That he's not. He knows
Oh
is not
yeah,
that us as human beings are not ready to wrap our heads around.
I'm starting to think, what if he actually is an alien? Wouldn't that be funny?
I mean, there's a lot of conspiracies, like a lot of people who believe that he is, that he's not like what we would call human. Obviously, some like, I mean, it's an idea. Again, the possibility of it being zero isn't zero. Like,
What if he's actually what if he's a rogue AI synth? Hear me out. So you know how he named his
Fallout
son?
4.
Well, no, so you know how he named his son, right? With the weird
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
coding. So either like maybe that's how his species talked, or it's because he's actually a robot. He's got like he's actually like they so have you seen the AI that they show on YouTube and stuff like that? That has like the pretty realistic face, and they just released this new nurse one that's actually supposed
Yeah.
to be like up in the nurse community. That's just the kind of tech that we see on the surface. What if they actually managed to create a human being completely synthetic with a robot brain? You know what I mean? Like, what if he actually can just do calculations like that and shit like that because his brain has been altered, or alien? I don't know, but I think he's actually just a really fucking overworked man. I think he's just like he's a human being through and through. You can tell by the dumb shit he posts, but he's. I think it's just fun to have those conspiracy moments, but I do think there are people on this planet that are extraordinary.
Oh yeah.
I will say they are out there, and I do think there is something to that, and it doesn't quite make sense because, like, when you see the genetic variety of humanity, sometimes I just even wonder. I'm like, wow, we are a really interesting species. We are very fascinating. Like, what just, and even as I've learned to understand evolution more and stuff like that, it's like there's just still so many questions not answered about how we have altered the way we've altered. How do we define what consciousness really is? Is there a soul? Is there an afterlife? These are things that we just have not firmly answered. And then Jeff Bezos is working on immortality right now. So that's interesting. And that brings up a very controversial question. Would you choose to be immortal if you had the opportunity?
I mean, knowing that it's not possible yet, and obviously it'd be in the beta in a beta process, I'm gonna say no
My
because
question is, how would you know?
how would I know I'm immortal?
Yeah,
Yeah,
like if
like oh
it's like an age thing, you gotta wait like at least a year.
yeah, or just like if they like hit you with some shot or put some Neuralink thing on you that just like it's like sensory overload to where like your physical body won't age and like your cognitive skills don't deteriorate, which can cause you to like die, obviously, by not being aware of your surroundings. Like I said, at this point, I would say no, just because it'd be a. What are you doing?
Oh, I thought I heard something.
Oh, yeah,
It's
I.
just my heater going stupid. Sorry.
Oh, yeah, I'd say no, just because it's a in our lifetime, it'd be in a beta stage to where I wouldn't trust it enough to like live my life knowing I'm immortal. I'd rather continue to live my life knowing I could die by making a wrong decision.
Honestly, dude, I would say that we don't quite know how technology is going to change though with AI evolving, because like if because AI, once it's more intelligent than us and it can self-replicate, I think that's concepts called the great singularity, because they essentially surpass us as the dominant species on the planet then, because they can go and create their own. They don't need us.
Yeah,
What are we like? We're useless to them. They're smarter than us. They know everything we know and more, and they'll have the chance to understand the cosmos like we never will. And if we can link our consciousness to that, that's a sense of immortality in itself too. But is that how our soul is supposed to go though? And then that's like you get into those controversial questions, because dude, I honestly think with today's technology, we could at least maybe in 20 years create the first superhero.
just somebody with like superhuman like vision, hearing, like muscle mass, like that kind of superhero. You mean?
Someone who you could upholster their body with cybernetics. You could also make sure they have the top human genetics using CRISPR technology. You could you could enhance all the function of their brain using a Neuralink. You could give them synthetic skin that's Kevlar or some kind of resistant, stab resistant, bulletproof resistant kind of skin that the Neuralink could be attached to, that you could use some kind of nanotechnology to regulate that, and you can pay attention to how your skin's doing with like a subdermal plant that kind of like just preserves the flesh underneath. And so the skin can be removable anytime, but it's meant to feel comfortable, like it's just another layer of skin. I believe there's technology you could design that kind of concept, and so if you do that, and then you could stall the aging process, and you can enhance them in several other ways that I'm fairly certain there is a technology to do it if we ever reach beyond ethics. But like China doesn't deal with ethics. What if they start creating super soldiers? Like imagine we could see the first super soldiers and it's gonna be Captain China. What the fuck? Like, I'm sorry, not like I disrespect the Chinese or anything, but come on. It would have been a lot funnier if it would have been like Africa. I don't know. Like, I just
Like
picture like the
Captain
first.
Zimbabwe.
Yeah. Don't worry. Come with me. I will get you out of here. Just the sound of fucking drums. No, and it's just like, man, and I don't mean to disrespect that culture. It's so beautiful. They're such a rich culture. It's just, I personally, dude, I just feel like superheroes could be a thing though now with modern technology, and that kind of freaks me out. There's this, look up the guy with the red jumpsuit that keeps being spotted in California's airport. They keep seeing the red jetpack man.
Who is this?
I don't know. They're still trying to identify him. They keep seeing a guy with a red jetpack and a red suit.
That he's just hanging out.
Just in the air, yeah. Straight up, dude. I'll tell you, just like do a quick Google right now. Go ahead.
What do I just type in red jetpack man?
Yeah, that will work. I think that should pull it up.
FBI says possible jetpack man spotted near LAX. May have been a balloon. Oh, a photo shows what appears to be a balloon of Jack Skellington flying over Hollywood Hills.
I want to see it. Pull it up.
It's not a video. It's just an article.
Amazing.
It's just an article.
It's funny to me because it's like there are literally things like this happening and being misreported now all the time.
Holy shit. A Boeing 747 pilot reported seeing an object that might have resembled a jetpack 15 miles east of LAX at an altitude of 5,000 feet.
Well, that's just it, because there was like 4 people who saw it, 5 different pilots. So that's what confused me, because I was like, so they're saying if it was a balloon, I was like, that's confusing because all the different stories were spread out too. But it's one of the crazier ones that I've seen reported about was the fucking fact that dude, honestly, my biggest concern right now is the way we socially interact with each other. To just kind of get back on a train of thought, like it kind of scares me, this tonal shift in society, because it confuses me. I don't know what the angle. I don't know what angle everyone's trying to work. Like I don't know.
Well, that's what's hard is because we're the guinea pigs right now. Like people who are older than us know far less than us, and people who are younger than us, their brains haven't developed enough to understand it at a level that we would. But because they've grown up with it longer, like we're just in that weird phase right now where we're kind of the guinea pigs, to where
it's like
the next generation or 2 generations is going to be like 4 generations behind us. Like it's going to be that big of a jump, I feel like.
Why are they trying to make humans devolve though? Because I feel like they are in a lot of ways.
Or to kind of like make it a slower process to like you mean so like by that you mean looking back 100 years ago versus today where we could be leaps and bounds farther, but
I'd make the argument they were smarter than us.
because that we're pulling back the reins, we're not as far ahead as we could be.
You know, I'd make the argument if we snatched Leonardo da Vinci out of his timeline and brought him here, you know, everyone like, oh, he'd go crazy, his brain would get all, you know what I mean? No, I think you'd know exactly what we're talking about. You just give him a book to sit down because that dude was a genius, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think he would learn everything. He'd play CS. He's like, oh, you guys are very basic in your thinking. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, even today, like, I hate to like reference this guy again, but I just like him. I listen to him a lot. Avi Loeb, the Harvard professor, he's told his classes at Harvard they're well below the median for intelligence. Like humanity's just gotten stupider. We're dumb in a lot of ways. Even the most advanced humans are dumb. Like, whatever happened to those savant kids? You know, like the ones that were always like fucking playing piano, like playing Mozart when they're fucking still inside their mom, like their hands just popping out or like vagina, just. But it's yeah, like I don't know whatever happened to those kids. I think they're part of the billionaire clique now because they just played it smart and they kept their heads down.
Yeah.
But dude,
Well, yeah, that's where greed comes in. Those people who are smart, rather than making a difference on the world, they just made a difference for themselves. Because if they made a difference for the world, they're sharing the wealth then.
one example of how billionaires just fuck people. Did you know that the government pays farmers not to farm, right? Well,
Yeah.
guess who owns farmland? Hold on. What's the name of that one billionaire family? Not the fuck, not the Carnegies.
The
No, not that one.
else
It starts with a B, I think. Or no, Rockefellers.
Rockefellers.
Yeah, he was a Rockefeller, I'm pretty sure. That owns. I had to look up the actual article. I just learned this in my public administration class. Though, and like, yeah, my professor's like, yeah, I don't know how it's pretty fucked up. So like he gets paid to not farm by our government and he's just making bank and it's disgusting. And there's other exploits like that all throughout our system. It's draining us. It's draining our economy. And to think that we're worried, like, you know, like we got our millionaire football player, dumb jocks out there who never really, like, don't get me wrong, some of those guys are really intelligent. Some of them are hyper intelligent. But then there's also a lot of them that just fucking, you know, eat lead. I don't know. They just fucking can't string together a sentence. They're called the O line. But it's no, I feel like there's just overall, to just get back to my original train of thought, there's an overall tone of thinking that's just dumb now. Like you think about the social problems we have. People get anxiety over losing their phone. People get anxiety over social fights. People get frustrated that someone got deleted off a social virtual like app. People get mad when someone insults them on a app that doesn't exist. People, you know what I mean? Like we have put value. This thing is like a virus and it's like a leech now. It's attached to us. We have latched into this system and people do not know how to pull out, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I definitely agree with that.
It sucks, dude, because it's like, what does this mean for the future? Because, like, you know, Facebook's working on becoming called something the metaverse. Did you see that?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's bro. They're gonna just try to, like, you know what's gonna happen? We're gonna perfect virtual reality, right? We're all gonna get to the point where it's gonna be you and me sitting just like this once again in virtual reality, talking about how they're creating second tier virtual reality because we're all tired of each other and we're trying to socially disconnect again. Because People don't realize they're creating a disconnectivity from people, period. And when you can actually enter virtual reality and see each other and actually start doing things and feeling things, which is the intent of metaverse, is the idea to actually feel sensations and stuff like that, to actually have an emotional connectivity to that. Guess what? It's not gonna feel like you're fucking safe anymore. Even if it's not minor, if it doesn't hurt or anything like that, you're gonna feel a connection. You're gonna be like, oh, this person feels something.
Mm-hmm.
And it's gonna crumble on itself because you're gonna see a horrible aspect of thinking develop on it, like or a certain kind of perception of the world that's just very anti interaction. I don't know, man. I just see this all going in a very bad direction. It's really Black Mirror. It's like playing out real time now, and I just feel like everything I understand and know is going to disappear pretty fast. And I don't mean that in like a dramatic sense. I think it's gonna hit us before we know it, bro. Give us 5 years. I'm telling you. Like we get all laugh now. Like there's no point in stressing because it's gonna play out no matter what. But
Mm-hmm.
these next 5 years, they're gonna get weird. And I just know that. I don't know why I know that. I just know that. It's gonna be weird. Just because the way the things are moving. And I pay attention to it enough. I'll always say things will always be worse. We're still alive, we're still breathing, we're still kicking. I still like my life feels exactly the same. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But either the simulation's about to get a lot more interesting, or this is real life and we're about to get fucked by space. I was thinking, like, what if like some bad space like accident happens too? Because like NASA's planning, like they're launching a satellite into space to deflect an asteroid. They're trying to plan on that. What if there's actually a massive asteroid heading for us and they're keeping it out of the media?
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. Just because I mean, look at how many times it's happened already to where 2 days ahead of time they're like, "Oh, this asteroid is going to come across. Like you'll be able to see it at this time, at this day in the atmosphere, or whatever." It's like thinking of how big the universe is. That's fucking close. And like 2 days ahead,
Yeah.
2 days ahead of time, they're like, "Oh yeah, you'll be able to see this." So they're almost like, "Oh, this is cool." But like up until 2 days ago, they're like, okay, good. It's not going to hit us. We can
Yeah,
tell we can
it's like, oh, this one
tell,
won't kill all of
yeah,
humanity.
it's not going to kill us. So we can just tell everybody, oh, this is a cool thing to look at to like distract them from the fact that, hey, if this was if this was a couple 100 miles in a different direction 10 years ago, we'd be fucked.
Yeah. Well, and also thinking about the fact that there's so many other space shit that can happen. There's like these space cyclones. That's a fucking thing. There's these literal like ways for like electrons to get shot down into our atmosphere that can disrupt technology and can shut down satellites. There's solar flares, obviously. There's fucking so many things that thankfully we got our ozone. But dude, I don't know. Like space always freaks me out when I think about how easily destroyable we are. And I just think like there's got to be something that's been protecting us because like we could not. How did we survive this long? If humanity has been this stupid this whole time,
Well,
like
that's the thing. We had like Earth of itself has evolved, has had we like shit hit it. Like you know what I mean? There's been ice age, there's been hot times, there's been times where the entire Earth was underwater. Like there's been altering things that like have changed.
well, so there's a couple interesting things I want to point out that give a little like suspicion to the fact why I think like, oh, maybe simulation or maybe created universe. If our planet would have been any little bit closer to the sun or further away, it would have either been burning in flames or it would have been frozen solid. We are like in the perfect sweet spot, the habitable zone.
Mm-hmm.
And like it's the perfect habitable zone and everything coming together the way it has. Our moon only turns it doesn't spin like this on its axis. It just goes like this. Like so, or actually it is spinning like this. So you're only seeing one face because it's spinning like
Yeah,
this as
it
well.
spins
So you're
like this, but it's tilt. It's that's how
yeah,
we
so
have
it's
our
also
seasons where it's
yeah,
tilting the opposite
yeah, it
ways.
spins like this while it's also going like this. So you're only seeing one face of the moon the whole time you live your life on this planet. So that's interesting that you can only ever see one surface side of it, no matter what. And it's just there's a lot of things that kind of point to weirder aspects of like universal law, for example. Everything follows it. Everything follows physics and science. Everything plays by the rules. Even under deeper scrutiny, you can find it usually always plays by the rules. And it's like the
Hmm.
fact that there's a universal rule that you can say that no matter what alien planet you go on to, their physics will be our physics is interesting. Like they might just have more elements and stuff like that, but no matter what, it's the same science.
Yeah.
And it's crazy to think that over time, dude, think about where now like sorry to like run off with this, but dude, I keep getting caught up on the whole like where we're going with the future now. Thinking because like, dude, I promise you, we're gonna be like they're actually trying to get air taxis commercialized. Did you see that? Air
Yeah.
taxis. That's some sci-fi shit, bro. First off, dumb. Very dumb. I think it's stupid. Poor seagulls. Poor me. Just trying to eat my sandwich in my air taxi in peace and then watch a seagull explode. That'd be kind of funny, actually. But still, I'm eating a sandwich, goddammit.
Yeah.
And it's just to think that that's going to be technology we're going to employ. Does this mean we're going to cut back on cars? But how? Because humanity's getting bigger. Are they anticipating something happening that a lot of human beings are going to go away?
Well, I think it's going to either make look at like electric vehicles and just like the evolution of vehicles are becoming smaller because I think they realize that as the population grows, having a fucking look at the 80s and 90s, station wagons were the thing when population control like an overpopulated earth was less of a concern. Now you have smaller vehicles that take up less space
I didn't notice that, but yeah, you're right.
that nobody wants a station wagon. Everybody wants a small four-door sedan that like again takes up less space, is less pollution, whether it's a hybrid or whatever. But yeah, like it's a small again, a very small thing in the spectrum of things, but it's one way to look at it as like you said, are we preparing for something to happen? But yeah, as the population goes up, we have to realize to either make make what we have smaller or completely reinvent the wheel.
Dude, I also want to think of I want you to think of a concept with me here too. Think about how many sports cars are sold daily. Think about how many one singular dealership sells sports cars. Like imagine like being able to buy a sports car right now, right? Like like just have like that money just to throw down like that. Now think about daily how much that's happening. Think about how much more like how many more people have more money than you now, right? That are just out there throwing
Mhm.
that down daily or maybe circumstance whatever. Eliminate them. There's still a lot of people out there that just have this excess of wealth that are always out here buying every new thing all the time, which God bless you. I don't know how you're so wealthy. Keep it up. Probably showing your butthole on OnlyFans. I salute you, girl. Keep it going. But it or guy, we don't judge here. But it's crazy to me to think that the economy was just running full four steam engine like that. You get me? Like it's just like people are just consumerism of I need to feed. I gotta buy all the coolest, newest, brandiest things.
Yeah.
Like they just gotta fucking feel the brand. They gotta make sure it's Nike. They gotta like slick it. Like yep, that's Nike for sure. That's or whatever fucking Gucci or Louis. Everyone just chases these logos, and it's like you guys are stupid. Sorry, I
Yeah.
love you. If you guys got the pride, this prestige, I understand. But like, you can say, "Oh, well, you can't afford it." Well, hell yeah, I can't. Why would I want to? Like, second, like, first off, even if I could afford it, I. hmm, You're right. I'm a hypocrite. Next thought. No, I'm just, no, I'm just
Hey,
kidding.
actually, okay. So last thing here, just because I gotta wrap things. We've been going for like 2 hours. I didn't realize how long we've been going, but
I know. I've
uh,
just been having a fun, high conversation with you at this
yeah,
point.
no, it's been fun. I guess the last thing, just for a couple quick minutes here to talk on this, is some cancel culture things, which you kind of touched on a little bit, but again, some topics I want to throw at you, some things you may or may not have seen. One being Disney coming out with a new movie. I don't know if you've seen it. I saw previews for it the other day and I thought it was dope. And then obviously found a way or found out that cancel culture is already jumping on top of it. Is the movie Lightyear? I don't know if you've seen it or
Yeah.
seen
Oh
like
yeah.
previews
No,
on it.
that looked. Yeah, that looked awesome.
Yeah, the Buzz Lightyear story. People are
Yeah.
giving it flack because Buzz Lightyear looks too much like a stereotypical cop. So they're like coming down on it as saying like that like
So you're saying the guy who's going through space academy looks
yeah,
like the
he's
guy who
literally
goes
a
through
space cop.
police academy? You're telling me the guy who's in a militarized environment looks like the guy who's in a militarized environment. You're telling me the guy who's training to go off and potentially risk their life to do some form of security work looks like the guy who's training to potentially risk his life to go off and do some security work. Wow. All right. Thank you, cancel culture. You're dumb. Next question.
All right. Next one is the new I haven't seen it yet. Obviously I'd like to. The new Halloween Kills movie with the Michael Myers story.
Oh, interesting.
Cancel
Is it
culture is trying to cancel Michael Myers because in the movie he kills two gay guys.
only two?
Saying so they're saying that Michael Myers is a homophobic character because he killed two gay guys in
I'd
the
say
movie.
he loves the gays. He killed two of them. What do you mean? Usually
Yeah.
black people only get preserved one spot in horror movies. First off, let's talk about the injustice here. We're talking about gay people. First off, look at black token characters in horror movies. I think it's hilarious, but it's horrible. As a white person, I will recognize how fucked up it's been, but it's also kind of funny. And it's and it's like when you look at that and you realize that there's always been like the virgin character, like Cabin in the Woods makes fun of this whole concept, bro.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm gonna tilt that back down a bit. There we go. But yeah, Cabin in the Woods makes fun of the concept of that whole situation. But yeah, dude, you can't cancel Michael Myers for killing two gay guys. You should cancel Michael Myers for
Killing people.
fucking for having way too many shitty sequels. I'm looking at you, Rob Zombie. Yours was just torture porn. Michael torture porn the musical. I don't know. Dude, you made me feel uncomfortable about my name. Yeah, this dude wearing a little clown mask sitting there rubbing his nipples with a butcher knife. Probably not something exactly like that, but it was kind of like that. Sitting there just staring at his dad all taped to the chair. I'm rambling. The next thing about cancel culture, humor me here. I really want to go off about them because they piss me off.
It's
Like I hate
this is
it.
the last. Okay, so this is the last one I have, and again, right when we started talking here, I mentioned there was a sports related one that recently surfaced this week. PETA, the pro animal organization, filed a grievance against the MLB for using the term bullpen for their pitchers, where pitchers warm up on the field. It's called the bullpen. They said that it's offensive to bulls, that cattle should be roaming free and not be penned up. So they filed a grievance against the MLB for using the term bullpen and suggested that they use the word arm barn instead.
Those poor bulls. Did they go and ask every single one of them? Were they all offended? Did they come in mass to PETA? Did they all show up to PETA at once and say, please, they have offended us? Did they all just come in mass? Sincerely, I want to know because I want to know how PETA gathered its information of who the fuck was so offended because I know it wasn't the animal.
Yeah.
So please tell me who on behalf
And it
on
wasn't the
behalf
sports
of these
community.
animals.
It wasn't the baseball community either. There might be a
And
small percentage that are, but bullpen has been a term for hundreds of years. I don't know why people would have it
bullpen is
now.
not even offensive in the slightest. We got like we literally have like so many different situations where we cage humans. When I was a baby, they had those little, or like when I was even younger, they had the little things you could put babies in. We all had it. Remember, like growing up, like, and people use those for their kids still. Like people use those for so long and shit like that. Like there's always been a pen concept. There's never been a problem with the idea of something being put in something like that, as long as it's not too small for them. That's when you get into like that issue of animal abuse and shit. But a bullpen was never implied to be animal abuse. Like, like there's no animal abuse in that. It's just that. It's just a bullpen. And
Yeah.
fuck you, Peter. When did you come out of the shadows?
Yeah.
Go back into them. No one asked you.
I know when I
Like,
saw that, I was like, oh yeah, PETA is still a thing. What the fuck? What are they up to now?
apparently harassing the wrong people.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's all I had. I mean,
Okay.
we could almost break this into a part two because I know there's things that we'd like to talk about, but I mean,
Oh, I'm down.
um,
All right, we can
yeah,
wrap it up right here, though.
yeah, that sounds
I'm
good.
kind of hungry. I gotta go eat.
That sounds good. Well, it's good talking to you, man. And we'll have to do this again soon. Again, yeah, talking
Yeah.
more about what's wrong with
Yeah.
the world. That's kind of the
Next up,
path.
I'll get into it. I'll actually break down some of my reasoning on what I speculate is reality. Because I know I asked you, but I never actually explained for myself.
Okay.
So I can break that down in this part too. And then I can actually look up some articles and provide some information to you. Like there's some interesting things. Like, did you know that Nikola Tesla's technology, like some of his papers were actually taken by the FBI?
Really?
Yeah, very weird. There's like a lot of cool, interesting, wacky shit that's happened in life that when you start to like look at these things, you're like, huh, well, what the fuck? Like Bohemian Grove. You remember Bohemian Grove?
I don't.
Joe Rogan talks about it. I figured you would have seen that episode. Him and
I'm sure I
this
did.
one
I just don't remember it at the moment.
it's like a place where all these like rich elites go and meet, and then they like do a weird little ritual. They sacrifice some like weird wood doll.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, some interesting shit. But anyways, more about culture later, I guess. We'll talk about that shit in part two because the weird underlying issues in our culture, I feel like run deeper than we even realize. Like, dude,
Yeah.
why is homelessness still a thing?
Hmm.
Honestly,
Yeah,
we
that's
have the
a yeah.
power. We have the power to change homelessness. That's not hard. The United Force of America can't change homelessness. What kind of country are we? But
Hmm.
we'll talk about that in part two.
Sounds good. Take care.